from Port St. Lucie. Yes, the Easter Bunny is on hand, and so are Met fans streaming into Tradition Field, which has been packed and jammed all spring. And maybe a little Easter gift for the youngsters? Well, maybe a David Wright autograph would do. That's the ticket. Better even than Easter eggs. From Tradition Field in Port St. Lucie, CW11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball, presented by Citi. This afternoon, the Mets play the St. Louis Cardinals. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Tradition Field, and a happy Easter to you. Gary Cohen and Ron Darling with you today. And the man of mystery, Orlando Hernandez, will make his first appearance of the spring today. And I think it's fair to say that nobody knows exactly what to expect from El Duque in the game today.
Well, you know, Willie Randolph always says when the stage is set, El Duque usually comes up. But he's only pitched in 2 simulated games. You can see him warming up now with that rosin bag, with that new motion he has. This guy Conti is trying to keep him still on the mound. It's only 2 simulated games. Last game, 80 pitches. So he's thrown enough pitches, but he has not appeared in a major league game. That's a concern.
And the radar gun, it will tell you that El Duque has been throwing his fastball upper 70s, topping out maybe around 81. And I guess the question is he holding back? Is there something there that we haven't seen yet?
I think that he probably has been holding back to make sure that he's got this motion down so he doesn't hurt his arm. But still, it's going to be hard to jump from 81 to 88 in a ballgame. That's what he's going to try to do today.
Well, certainly El Duque will have the 5th starter spot if he's prepared, healthy, ready to go. If he doesn't, Mike Pelfrey is in competition for that job, and he'll pitch as well today.
Yeah, and 3 of his 4 starts have not been bad, but he's had a couple of real bad starts where he got beat up. He has 16 hits and only 13 innings pitched, and he's walked more than he's struck out. So even though he's had some good moments, that's not been all easy riding for Mike Pelfrey this spring training.
Now, whether it's El Duque or Pelfrey, and there you see Pelfrey's numbers so far this spring not particularly good, or even a long shot like Nelson Figueroa, the Mets, if they wanted to, could go the first 10 days of the season without a number 5 starter. The question is, would they be inclined to do that?
Well, I don't think they're going to be inclined to do that, because I think they get through certain stages where they might want to give Pedro an extra day off. So I think right now their intention is to bring up 5 starters. Their intention is that they hope today that Willie Randolph sees something in Orlando Hernandez that makes him decide he's his 5th starter.
Well, Easter surprise from El Duque today, no matter what happens. Earlier today, some of the Met relievers did some work on the backfields, including Dwaner Sanchez, man of mystery himself. Kevin Burkhardt on Dwaner when we come back to Port St. Lucie. The Mets and the Cardinals straight ahead. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by McDonald's. Right now, McDonald's has the 6-piece McNuggets on the dollar menu, but hurry, the offer ends March 31st. By Lexus and your local Lexus dealers. By 1-800-OK-CABLE. And by K&G Fashion Superstore, for men, for women, for less. Mets and Cardinals on an overcast day in Port St. Lucie, Easter Sunday. Plenty of action going on not only in the stadium today, but on the backfields as well this morning. For more on that, Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Well, Gary, certainly with El Duque and Mike Pelfrey throwing today, the innings are all used up. So on the backfields in a minor league game, the Mets had a few guys, including Dwaner Sanchez, throw side sessions. Billy Wagner in there, and Holman as well. And all eyes, of course, on Dwaner Sanchez, including owner Fred Wilpon, who was watching from the tower above. Sanchez looked good. He faced 3 batters, had a leadoff double, and then a strikeout on a wicked changeup, and then a double play in a weird one, too. A fly out to center, but then the runner left too early from second. So he ended up throwing 14 pitches, 8 of them for strikes. But the good news, Gary and Ryan, is that the fastball 5 times was at 91 miles per hour. So it looked like he was consistently getting the velocity up on that fastball. Of course, now the key guys, how will he respond? Maybe he'll be back tomorrow. That's something that we don't know until we see it. So right now, looking at him, he looks very good. Now we'll see how he comes back. Guys, back up to you.
All right, Kevin. And, of course, Willie Randolph has said in order for Sanchez to be on that opening day roster, he has to throw in back-to-back games. All eyes on El Duque this afternoon. He'll try not to drop the ball as he takes on the Cardinals. All the action on the CW11. There is El Duque making his way from the left field bullpen down toward the Mets dugout, along with pitching coach Rick Peterson, preparatory to his first spring start on March the 23rd. Well, Pedro got started a little late because of unforeseen circumstances, including a rainout. With El Duque, it's because of a bunion and working on a new delivery. And it's going to be fascinating to watch. He's just not going to look like the same El Duque once he takes the mound, the one that we're used to watching.
Yeah, some of the things to look for, his hands are going to go over the top of his head. He's going to have kind of, his foot's going to be square when he raises it. And then the other thing that you'll see also is that, see the old lineup wind up, that right foot comes off, the heel comes off, that big high leg kick, almost as high as his ear. Well, you're not going to see that today. That leg kick will be probably just even to his chest. No raising of the right heel, hands behind the head, a more standard kind of motion that most right-handers employ.
Now, is it more about the leg kick generating velocity? Is it more about deception and hiding the ball? What are the issues here?
Yeah, for a guy like Billy Wagner, he might have that high leg kick because he pushes off so well to use it for speed. El Duque is maybe earlier in his career used it for speed, but not now. The last few years, he's really used it for deception. I mean, hitters hit 206 off him last year, so he had a marvelous season with those 9 wins. And to be able to change at this point in his career, it's going to be very interesting to watch.
Just so everybody's clear, he had a bunion problem last year, and I think we all thought that he was going to have that bunion removed, but what he did was he had a tendon repaired, but the bunion is still there, and his feeling is the surgery to remove the bunion would be serious enough that it would cost him significant time, and so he's basically delaying it till his career is over, and whether that's after this year or next year or whenever. Here's your Lexus starting lineups for the Cardinals, including Albert Pujols, who's having a Pujols-ian-type spring. Yadier Molina, Chris Duncan, Adam Kennedy, Rick Ankiel, maybe Skip Schumacher, all regulars in Tony La Russa's lineup, and here today.
Well, this is El Duque's numbers from last year. 24 starts, 3 relief appearances, 9 and 5. I talked about that batting average against 206 with right-handers, only hitting $167. 23 home runs allowed, though. 147 innings is a lot of home runs. Well, the defense for the Mets brought to you by McDonald's. You can see that infield. That's what you're going to hope to see all season long. Right, Reyes, Castillo, Delgado, Pagan, and Church on each side of Beltran, the center field, the Gold Glover. But really, the person to talk about is Casanova. Raul Casanova getting the start. Brian Schneider caught yesterday's game, caught 5 innings, went 0 for 2. Now 7 at-bats in those 08 spring training.
And Schneider as well. He could have played today. They're just giving him a day off. He hit the ball hard yesterday, felt nothing. The more immediate concern is Ramon Castro, who remains on the sideline with a hamstring issue. And so Casanova, thus, with Robinson Cancel having undergone knee surgery after hurting himself the other day, Casanova stands to make the opening day roster if Castro can't go.
Watch El Duque here. The hands over the head. Before, those hands would only go to his chest, never go over his head. That leg kick, although still high for a pitcher, certainly not that deceptive kind of whirly bird motion that he had before. That leg kick comes and meets the hands as they come down, and when they touch, you proceed to the plate.
Used to be that knee would come up, he could practically kiss his knee. And you see the heel staying on the ground as opposed to the heel coming off the ground. And that is why they have had to revamp this motion, because with that bunion, when that heel comes off the ground, there's just too much pain.
It's a little bit like Jose Valentin, who has that neck problem. He knows that if he had surgery, it would correct it. But at this time in his career, probably not the judicious thing to do. And I think the same thing for Orlando Hernandez.
Well, Willie Randolph said yesterday, as far as El Duque is concerned, everything will be revealed today. So revelation about to begin
on Easter Sunday.
And I think everybody in the ballpark is going to be fascinated to see what transpires. Skip Schumacher to lead things off, having a very good spring. And he takes it in tight for ball 1. Schumacher, who stands to be the most of the time right fielder for the Cardinals, after hitting .333 in a part-time role last year. And he takes the changeup for a strike, 1-1.
Fastball in. I'll tell you, when you throw 81, it was his fastball on the first pitch. You throw 81, you got to get guys off the plate. Fastball in, changeup on the outside corner.
Pulls foul, and there's the hardest pitch that El Duque has thrown this spring at 83 miles an hour. You know, we talk about it all the time with Pedro Martinez about how, because of the quality of his secondary pitches, his ability to throw his changeup, throw his cutter, throw his curveball where he needs to, that velocity is less of an issue as the curveball misses outside. What's the cutoff, though? What do you need in terms of velocity to be successful at a minimum at the big league level?
Well, you know, sometimes what happens, either you're above the hitting level or below the hitting level. And sometimes when you get below it, you can be effective also. The problem, Gary, is the differential. He threw a fastball at 81-82.
Hit to left center. Pagan chasing, and that one beyond his reach. And Schumacher into second base with a leadoff double.
I'll finish my thought right after we see this. Fastball away. Nice hitting by Schumacher. You can see why he's having such a great spring training, going the other way. I think, Gary, the big thing for El Duque is going to be, if you're only throwing 81 or 82 miles an hour, his changeup was at 76. That differential is 5 or 6 miles an hour. Ideally, you want it to be 12 to 15 miles an hour. That's what Santana's is with his changeup. You saw Pedro the other day, he was throwing at 10 to 12 miles an hour slower than his fastball. That's the key. So that means he'd have to go close to 70 miles an hour on the changeup. That would be difficult to do.
So here's Aaron Miles playing third base today. That'll be Troy Gloss during the regular season. Pulls the changeup foul, 0-1.
You know, I guess all I can really talk about, as you see all the Mets on the top step of the dugout, at the end of my career, I don't know what I was throwing, but it was not hard. And what happens is that you end up throwing so many pitches because you just cannot put someone away. They will stay in there and foul pitches and foul some of your best pitches just because you don't have enough to put them away.
Wright playing in at third, and the fastball up and in, and that's 83, where El Duque's topped out so far here in the first inning. I was talking with Marty Noble today, and the name of Randy Jones came up, a guy who he says pitched below the hitting speed, at least at the end of his career.
But the thing about Randy Jones is that he had extreme movement on his fastball. A lot of sink on that fastball. Left-handed pitcher, slider in, sinker away. And he also used to have games where he'd complete games 75 pitches.
And you see the scouts are out with the radar guns today. Everybody trying to determine whether El Duque has still got it. Listed at age 38, thought to be age 42. 2-1 the count to Miles. And that changeup misses high, 3-1. And of course, those are the two most interested observers, because those are the guys who are going to have to make the decision and make it fairly quickly after today. El Duque, Helfrey, perhaps Figueroa, or start the season with 4 starters and make a decision later. That's what's on the table. And the fastball high, and Miles draws a walk. So a double and a walk to start things off against El Duque, and now he must contend with Pujols with 2 men on.
You know, the only difference, though, Gary, is that with Orlando Hernandez, all he has to prove is that he's healthy. Helfrey and Figueroa have to shine, pitch their way onto the team. If he's healthy, he will get that shot.
But again, is health determined in part by what the radar gun shows?
No, health we won't, I think so, but the health also will include a 24-hour period, because I think you'll have to find out tomorrow how El Duque feels.
Well, here's Pujols, who's having a great spring, and he takes the curveball inside. Now, obviously, El Duque gets a lot of deception with that slow curve. Is that deception lessened if he's throwing 81 to 83 as opposed to 85 to 88?
It's lessened, and also you might have to use it more. And one of the great things about that slow curveball is that he would throw it 2 or 3 times a start. That's it.
And he comes back to the curve and gets it over, 1-1. Johan Santana will pitch the opening day game in Miami a week from tomorrow. Now he'll be opposed by fellow left-hander Mark Hendrickson. Fastball popped up, and that'll go out of play. And there's the hardest pitch El Duque has thrown so far at 84.
Talk about hard pitches. I mean, could you ever get a more different matchup? Mark Hendrickson, 6'9", soft thrower. Johan Santana, 5'11", 6 feet, 95 miles an hour. As you're taking a look at Andy Chavez right in front of Duaner Sanchez, who has the ice on his shoulder, which is something he never did before he got hurt.
And he's certainly hoping to be on that opening day roster 8 days from now in Miami, but that is very much up in the air. 1-2 to Pujols, and the slider off the plate. 2-2. Schumacher is at second, Miles at first, still nobody out. As El Duque tries to settle in here in the first inning against the great Albert Pujols. In the air to center, Beltran is there. Schumacher tags at second. The catch made. Schumacher tags and goes. So does Miles, and runners are at second and third. Good base running by the Cardinals. Miles tagging at first when he saw that Beltran was going to throw to third.
Well, Schumacher has better speed than Miles, so Beltran thinks he's moving on it very nicely. Coming in on the ball, has a lot of movement coming towards third base, and felt like he could make that throw. But Miles, nice base running. Once he sees that Schumacher's going to tag up, he'll tag up and kind of piggyback off him. If he goes and the throw goes to third, you proceed to second base.
So now runners at second and third with one out. And it'll be Rick Ankiel, who grew up right here in Port St. Lucie. Ankiel looks like he'll be the starting center fielder for the Cardinals, and why not, the way he's hit the ball this spring, hitting .345, 3 home runs. The infield is back, and Ankiel takes a slider for a strike. See Orlando Hernandez growing that goatee. He says, "I'll shave it after my first win." He hopes it won't grow very long.
I said that in August of 1995. I ended up looking like one of the guitarists from ZZ Top because I never did get that win.
Yeah, but you were a sharp-dressed man. El Duque really taking his time. Oliver Perez got roughed up yesterday up in Winter Haven. The Indians hit 4 home runs against Oliver, who's had an up-and-down spring. Really unique among the Met starters. Inside, that hit Ankiel, and the bases are loaded. So El Duque plunks Ankiel on the leg. And now he'll face Chris Duncan with the bases full.
Looks like he's trying to cut this ball in on Ankiel. Yes, he did. And that ball hit him on his back leg. That's how much that cutter missed the inside part of the plate. You know, that's why simulated games are good, and it's nice to get a little work. But it's certainly not here on this kind of stage, because the heart beats up a little bit, your adrenaline is running.
Well, there's 7,000 people in the ballpark watching you, judging you. You have thousands watching back home. Duncan takes off the plate, 1-0. And it has been a struggle early on for El Duque. He's thrown 19 pitches. He's gotten 1 out. And he's got the bases loaded and a powerful hitter at the plate. Duncan, 21 home runs last year in part-time duty. Fastball pulled down to first and foul.
Well, if you're El Duque and you're pitching, you're saying to yourself, okay, that's a weapon I got against Duncan. Change up, it seems like he wants to pull it. That might get me a ground ball double play. But sometimes you can't keep going back to the well. You got to show something in hard, and then maybe go back to the well outside with that changeup, and maybe it'll keep it fair for you.
The infield at double play depth, hoping to help El Duque out. Off the plate, and it's 2-1. There's a very interested spectator. Pedro has looked game ready from the first pitch he threw this spring. They'll go in the second game of the season in Florida a week from Tuesday. In tight with the fastball at 86. First time we've seen that velocity. 3-1. I mean, even before this latest setback, you'd see El Duque go through games where he'd throw 85, 86, and then every once in a while he'd pop an 89 or a 90 when he needed an out in the worst way. Now he's behind 3-1 on Duncan with the bases loaded. And he breaks his bat and lofts it into right, and that'll score 2. Schumacher into score. Miles right behind him. Ankiel to third. A 2-1 broken bat single for Chris Duncan, and it's 2-0 St. Louis.
Well, good pitch here again, trying to cut that ball in on Duncan. Gets the ball in, just a bad break. Duncan's so strong, able to break that bat and still get that ball in the outfield for a base hit.
So the Cardinals now 2 runs to the good, and here's Yadier Molina. First and third and 1 out with 2 runs in. And the slider away, 1-0. And he does not look very happy with himself. You know, if it's your first outing of spring and it's March 2nd, you don't worry.
Hang with him, that's how it goes.
But it's March 23rd.
It's getting late.
Yeah. And that really, it's been the problem of when you have so little margin for error. Here you see the pitch count for El Duque here in the first inning. I mean, El Duque has gone from the calf injury right before the postseason in '06 to the arthritis in his neck last spring, bursitis in his shoulder early last season, and then the foot started bothering him. When he's pitched over the last couple of years, he's been brilliant. But the question is whether right now on the 23rd of March he's ready to pitch.
I always say this, injuries, you know, you're going to get injuries. The problem with injuries is you spend all your time in the training room rehabbing that injury that you can never work on your baseball skills. And sometimes, even if you're an older player and have been playing it for a long time, those skills can atrophy very quickly. You know, when you go to the gym, and you go to the gym for 6 months every single day and you're working out, you miss 1 week, it's almost like you're back to ground zero. That's sort of how it is with baseball skills or athletic skills.
Omar Minaya looking on. To short, might be a double play. Or Reyes gets the out at first. Duncan moving on that play?
Duncan moving,
Didn't see that. So Reyes gets the out at first, and Keel comes in to score to make it 3-0 St. Louis. So by sending the runner, the Cardinals stay out of the inning-ending double play. And El Duque has got to keep working to Adam Kennedy. Now here's the situation. Tony La Russa insists on batting his pitcher 8th. You've got a runner at second and 2 out. You've got your number 7 hitter up there. There's no reason for, in a regular season context anyway, to go after Kennedy in this spot.
And Delgado came in to remind Orlando Hernandez of that situation, especially Kennedy, who's been a hot hitter this spring training.
And Kennedy's had to have a good spring training to fight off a challenge for his job. He was hurt much of last year, and Aaron Miles played most of the time. And Kennedy hitting .326 this spring. There's Wellmeyer hitting in the 8th spot. Punched foul.
You know, Gary, he did get hurt, but he was on his way to an awful season. He was in 2 and change. He's always had that unusual swing that is a very large uppercut, and when everything's going right, that can be a nice swing and can produce some extra base hits. But if it's not, this is a lot of pop-ups.
Well, you can really compare him in some ways to Marcus Giles, another, you know, not very big middle infielder with a big swing who's gone from the heights to the depths.
I would say they're mirror images of each other, the way they swing and the way they play.
Giles, of course, a right-hand hitter, and Kennedy a left-hand bat. On 2-1, El Duque misses wide. Can't imagine he'll give Kennedy much to hit here with the pitcher on deck. I wonder what kind of pitch count they'd allow him to get to today. You see 30 pitches already in the first inning and more balls than strikes.
They are playing tonight.
3-1 the count. Casanova sets up outside, and Kennedy swings and misses. 3-1, 3-2.
That's very interesting. That ball out of the strike zone. I think Kennedy also knows that the pitcher's up behind him, so anything close, he was going to take a swing. 3-1. Might be a little more judicious on this 3-2 count.
Rounded out to Castillo, and that'll put a close to the inning. It took him 32 pitches, but Orlando Hernandez puts his first inning of the spring to rest. The Cardinals score 3, and the Mets will come to bat in the bottom of the first, down 3-0. An overcast Easter Sunday hasn't kept the fans away. Despite the threat of rain, your Alexis Mets starting lineup, pretty much your opening day lineup, one would suspect, with the exception of the catching spot and, of course, the pitcher. Reyes, Castillo, Wright, Beltran, Delgado for certain. Pagan in all probability. Church for certain.
Todd Wellemeyer pitching for the Cardinals. He was picked off the waiver wire last year on May 15th from the Kansas City Royals. He started 11 games for the Cardinals. They were 9-2 in those games, as his record was 3-1 as a starter.
It's another one of those Dave Duncan reclamation projects. Wasn't good enough to pitch in Kansas City, let go on waivers, and was very effective for the Cardinals. Reyes lofts one to right center, and over there is Schumacher, and that's the first out. So 1 away.
Here's the defense. Cardinals defense brought to you by McDonald's. You see Duncan's had a tough spring. Ankiel got that center field job. Schumacher hitting .341 at the #1 slot. That's how he's going to get that right field job. The biggest change really are Roland's gone. Gloss is at third base. Miles playing today. And Cesar Torres for David Eckstein playing the shortstop position.
Here's Luis Castillo. Third baseman Miles comes in tight, and Castillo takes a strike. Louis has been playing for about a week now, coming back from off-season knee surgery. And Wellemeyer gets ahead of him 0-2.
Well, Wellemeyer built perfect for that long name, isn't he? With those broad shoulders, the only way he can fit that long name there, and all those E's.
He's got those coat hanger shoulders. Well, a new victim has been found in the ongoing bubblegum sagas. Slapped. The shortstop is Torres with a fine play, and he throws him out. The former Gold Glover is Torres, who has had a shaky spring with the glove, made a brilliant play there.
Well, especially with Miles jumping up and getting in his way, that throw across his body, and a nice pick by Pujols. That was like a goalie through a screen, makes the glove save and the throw.
As Torres has been kind of lost the last couple of years with the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Pirates. Now landing in a good spot for him if he can produce. David Wright takes ball 1.
He's a good offensive player, but I don't think he gives him what Eckstein has given him the last 3-4 years.
He'll be a 9-hitter as opposed to being a 1 or 2 hitter. And Wright hits it hard, and Torres with another nice pick and throws him out. A highlight play by Torres, who was front and center in that half inning with a couple of sparklers. 3-0 Cards as we go to the second. Second inning, El Duque, after throwing 32 pitches in the first inning and giving up 3 runs, throws a strike to his opposite number, Todd Wellemeyer. Wellemeyer first came up with the Cubs, but he's been a reliever for most of his career. That's why he hasn't had very many career at bats. I thought he was supposed to be doing television. In the air down the left field line and out of play. And by the way, he's been doing it extraordinarily well.
He's unbelievable. But you know how it works with Bobby Knight. He's the only person in this industry. He tells them when he'll show up. I'll be there on Tuesday.
Of course, he's visiting in the Mets dugout wearing his Cardinal garb. It's a hit with the relief pitchers. And Wellemeyer pokes one the other way. And he has himself a base hit. So the third hit off El Duque. Well, the Mets opener pack gets you into Shea for the home opener April 8th against the Phillies. Get your ticket to opening day and 6 other great games with the Mets opener 7-pack. Get to the phone at 718-507-TIXX or visit Mets.com today. But did you see the story on Bobby Knight? I guess it was Neil Best's column today. He said, yeah, I'm doing this, but I'm not a member of the media.
Yeah. And Digger Phelps said, yes, you are. He said, no, I'm not. And in an industry where they kind of tell you what you got to wear, and Digger's got all those sharp ties, love seeing that the coach still has the sweater on.
Well, it looks like ESPN manufactured
they had this for it.
Kind of like our SNY shirts.
There you go.
Here's Cesar Izturis, and he takes that slow curve for a strike. 61 miles an hour, almost broke the gun. And of course, there are the CW11 logoed shirts. I hear there's some new shirts in the work for the regular season.
I've seen them, Gary. There's some interesting colors on some of them.
Really? So we've gone to something more of a fashionable mix?
Fashionable is a word. I wouldn't put it in that sentence. No, just one. All the other shirts are fantastic. Very much like our shirts last year, the colors, and better material. The material is supposed to breathe better when it's hot.
We're not going to sweat as much.
Not sweat as much.
That's probably good for the people watching at home.
But we do have a creamsicle one that we'll have to break out on a hot sunny day.
Creamsicle and lemon.
And lemon.
You know what? I've heard about you that you're colorblind.
I am. I'm completely colorblind. So.
Popped up in the middle of the infield, and Reyes takes charge. One away. So as Turris is retired. Sometimes that affliction can be a bonus.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very fortunate with the creamsicle one.
1 out and 1 in. Here's Skip Schumacher, who greeted El Duque with a double to left center beyond the reach of Pagan that landed on the warning track. Schumacher's, he's a guy who, he doesn't impress you right out of the box, but the more you watch him, the more you like him. El Duque balks because Delgado was not holding the runner, the pitcher, Wellemeyer, at first base. So when El Duque turned, there was nobody to throw to, and the balk moves Wellemeyer up.
Well, sometimes the infielders make a little mistake. That time it wasn't. It was El Duque who just kind of lost where he was.
So now runner in scoring position with 1 out.
But again, these are all the things that you wouldn't do in a simulated game. There's no fielders out there. You just face hitters. You don't have to cover first. You have to back up bases. You know, all those little mental things are things. Those are things you work on in spring training too to get ready for the season.
Curveball in for a strike to Schumacher.
You were making a good point about Schumacher, though. He a little bit like Brady Clark for the Mets. The kind of guy that you have to see play a few times before you realize what kind of skills he has to help your team.
Good outfielder, good base runner, puts the ball in play. Not a lot of pop, but occasionally can hoist one. El Duque trying to find a formula. And it's included a lot of that. Soft breaking balls. That one in for a strike. 2-2 to Schumacher. And that's the point you were making earlier. It's, you know, you've got that curveball. It's a great pitch, but you might find yourself throwing a little too much. Back with the fastball, and Schumacher hits it to right. And Church has it. Wellemeyer holds it second. Now they're 2 down. So El Duque gets the second out. .32 pitches in the first inning. Trying for a more reasonable total in the second. As Aaron Miles steps in. Miles drew a walk his first time up. It was pouring rain this morning. I wasn't sure we were going to have a game today. The sun came out briefly. Now it's looking like rain again. And there's the slowest of the curves. Yesterday, the Mets had their game rain shortened up in Winter Haven. They played 7 innings. One to Miles.
Remember the old Cuban pitcher Louis Tiant at the end of his career employed a lot of these same pitches here that El Duque is throwing. Slow curves to get a guy back on his heels, and then maybe a fastball in to surprise him.
And Miles lifts it down the right field side. A long run for Church into the bullpen area, and he can't get to it as there was a chair in his way.
What is wrong with these guys in the bullpen? Get out of the way with the chair. Someone could get hurt.
You really should take the chair with you.
No,
right?
Take the chair with you and get out of the way.
Well, I think it was his first inclination, but he realized he was going the wrong way. He zigged when he should have zagged with that chair. And so he just dropped the chair right in Church's path, as it turned out. Too many guys in the bullpen. Yeah. That's the biggest problem. Spring training for relievers, too. Punched in the air. That's going to fall into shallow right center. Beltran makes the catch. Good sliding play by Carlos Beltran, who came a long way to take a base hit away from Aaron Miles and save El Duque a run. That's the Gold Glove Beltran in midseason form. Those knees feeling a whole lot better. 29-year-old Todd Wellemeyer set to face the Mets in the bottom of the second with his Cardinals up 3-0. Wellemeyer out of Bellarmine College. Ever heard of Bellarmine College in Kentucky, which is where he grew up. Carlos Beltran made that nice sliding catch to end the top of the inning. Will lead off in the bottom of the second. Beltran has swung the bat very well over the last few days. Looks like he is right where he needs to be to get the season started.
You were talking about Bellarmine. Steve Garland, who used to be the trainer for the Mets in the 80s, used to know the nickname of all the colleges. So next time I see him, Bellarmine will be the next one I drop on him.
University of California, Santa Cruz. That's the best. The Banana Slugs.
Banana Slugs.
And then you get, you know, some of the Division III schools like Tufts, the Jumbos.
Williams.
The Eef-men. And of course, you know, you guys, you're special. You get 2 different nicknames. Bulldogs, Eli's. Beltran cracks one foul.
We get 2 nicknames and Handsome Dan. That's what we got. Handsome Dan, of course, is what the Bulldog, real Bulldog mascot is named it.
And we are poor little lambs who have lost our way. Is that another mascot?
Another mascot. How about Amherst is the Lord Jeffs?
Right, yeah. Lord Jeffs. Good cut by Beltran. He fouls it back. But I love the Banana Slugs.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better than that. You know, you've had all sorts of minor league teams go to cute nicknames like the Savannah Sand Gnats.
Sand Gnats, that's right.
But Beltran just got a piece of that to stay alive.
Little cutter in on the hands, just fouled away. Wellmeyer using a little sinking fastball, cutter into the left-handers, and that big slurve or breaking ball.
And he bounces that one. It's 2-2.
At home, that was interesting to see, right? Molina gave the changeup, put his glove on the ground, pounded it to let Wellmeyer know, hey, it's 1-2. Let's make sure that this ball either hits the plate or is in the dirt. And that's where he threw it. The fish weren't biting, though. Beltran let it go by.
Hammered on the ground. Pujols with a nice backhand stop. They threw it a little behind Wellmeyer, who was able to reach back for it for the first out. So 1 out and nobody on. Visit the official online shop of the Mets at Mets.com. Browse the largest selection of authentic spring training gear, including clubhouse caps and t-shirts, jerseys, sweatshirts, and more. Get your spring training gear straight from the source. Shop the Mets.com shop. Here's Carlos Delgado. And Wellmeyer keeps it away from him 1-0. Delgado's physical ills are all solved. Hip feeling okay. Cut forearm doing fine.
And also the last few games, I don't know if you noticed, Gary, but seems to be a little more patient. It's, you know, hitters always talk about letting the ball come to you, you not being overly aggressive. It seems like he's starting to settle in a little bit that way.
Drives it the other way. Back goes Duncan. Can't get it. Extra base hit. And Delgado heads for second, and he's in safely with another opposite field hit. He not only has been going the other way, but he's been going the other way with authority.
This ball is covered. It's supposed to be inside from Wellmeyer. He misses out over the plate. And Duncan got a very good jump on that ball, but that ball just powdered over his head. No chance for him to make that play.
It seems more and more Delgado's approach is to look away.
He is so quick in. His hands are so quick, unusually quick. That's why he's had all these great years. But I think personally that's just such a great approach, and it's also going to present some big problems for people trying to get him out.
Here's Angel Pagan trying to nail down the starting left field job, and he takes a changeup for a strike. Pagan hitting .355 this spring and is impressed in so many areas. He's shown some pop. He's been a good base runner. He's played well in the outfield. Over the course of his career, Pagan has been a far better left-hand hitter than right. And with Ryan Church, a left-hand hitter who struggled against lefties in playing right field, and with Brian Schneider, the #1 catcher, a left-hand batter. It's not surprising that Freddie Gonzalez has opted to go with a lefty, Mark Hendrickson, on opening day against the Mets. Slider misses 2-1.
You know, to go back to that Delgado at bat. Okay, it's great. We've seen that he hit the double. He's hitting it the opposite way. The key to that at bat, the 1-0 pitch, was down and in. That's a pitch that you very rarely see when Carlos is struggling, letting that go by. He always offers at it. So him taking that is making the pitcher work a little deeper into the count and making him have to work a little more away, not be so fine. That's a good thing.
Fastball on the outside corner. But that's what Ralph Kiner was talking about last week, isn't it? That until you get to 2 strikes, your approach should be that I know the zone where I want to hit the ball, and anything else I'm going to let go by until I get to 2 strikes. Pagan rolls over it to second, and Kennedy throws him out. 2 away as Delgado moves over to third. It's been fascinating this spring when Ralph has been in the booth to hear him talk about hitting.
I honestly get to some point when I'm working with Ralph, I have to remind myself that I'm working, because I sit here and I just listen to his stories, settling back like I'm at home watching on TV. That's how riveting he is to me, anyway.
So So here's Ryan Church, still looking for his first run batted in of the spring. He did have a double yesterday, his first extra base hit of the spring up in Winter Haven. And he takes a slider for a strike.
You know, you mentioned Oliver Perez before. Unusual game, 4 home runs, but had 6 strikeouts in 5 innings. And for you people at home, it was only 7 innings. Joe Smith and Nelson Figueroa, both with a scoreless inning.
Church cracks one to deep center field. Back goes Ankiel. He won't get it. It's up against the wall as Delgado scores. Church has his first RBI of the spring, and the Mets are on the board. It's now 3-1. That has got to take a big load off the shoulders of Ryan Church.
Yeah, he's faced some tough left-handers this last week, and Wohlmeyer, a guy who throws more of a ball that bleeds back out over the plate, right into the happy area for Ryan Church. Nice hitting.
And also by that man, and Delgado all smiles as he comes in. And this team understands just how important Carlos Delgado is to their overall success. Raul Casanova doing the catching today, takes ball 1. Even without Moises Alou out, but especially with Alou on the shelf.
Well, with Alou on the shelf, Mike Lupica had a little skinny in his article today, and he really was on point. And it was that where the run's going to come from if Delgado doesn't produce him. He is invaluable to this ball club.
Well, the way it is structured right now, there's no concern at all about the top half of the Mets batting order. You've got 3 all-stars and Luis Castillo, a tremendously steady player, a guy who will facilitate Reyes and the 2 guys behind him, Wright and Beltran. But after that, Delgado is the linchpin for the rest of the lineup. And we don't know what Ryan Church is yet. You're not going to get a whole lot out of Brian Schneider. You certainly don't know what you're going to get out of left field without Lou out. Casanova takes a strike. And so Delgado is monumentally important. Not necessarily that he be the 35 homer, 110 RBI Delgado, but just that he be able to drive in runs when he gets those opportunities. I mean, last year it wasn't just that the batting average was down and the RBI total was down. It was those runner at third less than 2 out situations.
Well, with Reyes, Wright, Beltran, I'm not leaving Castillo out, but we're talking about all-star MVP type players, so they're going to be on the bag all season long.
Casanova watches ball 4. Wohlmeyer with a 3-1 changeup wanted no part of Casanova with Duque up next. So he issues his first walk. A little more like regular season pitching, no?
Yes.
We've seen that twice already today.
You're getting close, so you want to make sure that you pitch correctly. Orlando Hernandez, not a great threat as a hitter, will make contact.
Well, Duque will surprise you sometimes. Even stole a couple of bases last year in back-to-back starts. A little late, 0-1. Not sure how much work Orlando has done on his hitting while trying to get himself ready to pitch.
He had a big smile. Pedro's got a little smile.
1-1 to Duque.
Well, Duque has what, a little under 50 pitches. So he's hitting here. He's got to get more work. But as a pitching coach or manager, those first 50 pitches were very laborious. And what do I mean by that? You can pitch, you can throw 100 pitches in 2 different games. And one the next day, you can barely lift your arm. And the next day after another start, 100 pitches, you're fine. Why? Because one was real laborious. You had people on base. You're throwing from the stretch, 3-2 on everybody. And the other one just might have been nice and easy, throwing free and easy, getting quick outs.
You saw Bobby Knight explain to David Wright how it was that Notre Dame scored only 41 points yesterday.
I
I'd love to have him explain it to me. I haven't figured it out yet.
Aaron Howman wanted to hear that answer too.
Gosh. Aaron Goody went 3 for 17.
Early in that game, I saw a little bit of that game early.
El Duque down swinging.
The referees just were letting them, beat up on each other.
Coming up, Billy Wagner talks with Kevin Burkhardt as we go to the third. 3-1 St. Louis. Bobby Knight has taken his Cardinal red and gone back where he belongs.
Next to Bobby is Barry Weinberg, the old trainer. Started with the Yanks, A's for many years, now with the Cardinals. Old 50-50. I passed on Tom McKenna's nickname to him.
Well, Carlos Delgado has come out of the game, and Marlon Anderson is playing first base. Now, Carlos was all smiles when he came to the bench, so it certainly doesn't appear as though it's an injury situation. Maybe he just had Easter plans with the family. Anyway, El Duque will take on Albert Pujols, leading off in the top of the third. Pujols flied to center his first trip, and the curveball stays inside.
If you guys will watch at home, watch El Duque with putting his hands behind his head. There'll be a long time when he will not be able to see the catcher. Watch. Hands overhead, looking down. Doesn't pick up the catcher till the very last second.
Well, you mentioned Louis Tiant, and of course Tiant used to turn his back on the hitter as he went into his motion.
He was great to watch.
And he stays soft with Pujols, and it's 3-0. You see that second one? He got it down to 59. Him on 4 pitches. Second walk issued by El Duque as we check out today's pitcher's high speed, brought to you by Verizon, working for you. And you see El Duque has thrown 1 pitch at 86, but mostly he's been in the 83 range with his fastball. Rick Ankiel hit in the leg by a pitch his first time up. 3-1 St. Louis, third inning. And the curveball rocketed to deep right field. Back goes Church to the wall, and it's onto the berm. 2-run homer for Rick Ankiel. His 4th home run of the spring. And it's 5-1 St. Louis. And you talked about it earlier, Ronnie, having to go to that curveball a little too often.
And it looks like he wants to throw that pitch. We used to call it get me over curveball, trying to just get yourself a strike, but it looks like Ankiel, to tell you the truth, the way he double clutched there, it's almost like he was looking for that first pitch. Sat on.
Here's Chris Duncan, and there's a curveball for a strike.
Kept those hands back, timed it perfectly, and even with the wind blowing in a little bit, Ankiel shows why he's one of the best success stories ever.
Duncan broke his bat, singled in 2 runs his first time up. You can see his numbers are not good this spring, so he was due a broken bat hit. And Duncan down on strikes. That's the first out of the inning. First strikeout for El Duque. Meanwhile, Eddie Coons is up in the Mets bullpen. Now, it was to have been an El Duque Pelfrey split, but I guess they don't want Pelfrey to go more than 5.
Oh, and they want Pelfrey to start an inning too. I don't think they want him to come in the middle of an inning. You know, use Coons just to get through it if El Duque needs help, and then get Mike Pelfrey in the game.
Yadier Molina drove in a run with a ground out his first trip. Well, if you're El Duque and you're getting toward your pitch count at this point, he's thrown what, 56 pitches now? Right now, is it about outs, or is it about just finding some sharpness with your pitches?
If I were to go out there to talk to El Duque, now he's probably forgotten more about pitching than I know, but I would say this: listen, results mean nothing here. You know, I don't care if you give up 5 or 10 or 11 runs. Let's just concentrate on getting some sequences, throwing to spots, spotting your fastball, which I think is even more important now. The less you throw, the more you have to. Every time you throw that fastball, it's got to be a strike.
That fastball misses 2-2.
I was pitching in a game my rookie year in Philadelphia. Gave up 5 runs in the first 2 innings on my way to a brutal outing, leaving the game. I'm in the third, got bases loaded again, and Davey Johnson came out, and he said, hey, listen, you're not leaving this game. So you can either start getting some outs, or you give up as many runs you want. But until you prove to me that you can start throwing strikes and get us through 5, you're pitching 5 innings. Simple as that. Well, after that, I pitched a lot better, I'll tell you that, because with the threat of a disaster outing, it kind of woke me up.
2-2, taken low. Do you almost want El Duque to throw more fastballs now?
I'd like to see him, spot his fastball a little better. I think what happens, Gary, is that when you use 3 or 4 pitches
in the air to left field, and Pagan is there. Beltran calls him off, and that's the second out.
When you use 3 or 4 pitches, all right, let's say with Orlando, he's got the fastball, the change, the breaking ball. He also changes speeds on the breaking ball and the changeup. Also, he sinks his fastball and he cuts his fastball. We're talking about 8, 9 pitches. All right, so that's a great way to get hitters out. But unless you can throw those pitches for strikes or start to fine-tune those pitches, and everything, I don't care who you throw other than Tim Wakefield, everything comes off the fastball.
Well, he just got an out on an 80-mile-an-hour fastball.
He's going to be doing that because he's going to be pitching backwards. You're going to see a lot of first pitch breaking balls. Once he gets ahead of 2 strikes, then pop one in there occasionally.
Adam Kennedy grounded out his first time. And there's a fastball, a little bit high, 1-1. Backdoors the breaking ball, and it's 1-2.
I think the last time I saw maybe someone who had been more of a hard thrower, real hard thrower, throw like this was maybe Frank Tanana. I know he's from the left-hand side, but he had been a really hard thrower and up to 100 miles an hour when he was with the Angels with Nolan Ryan. But then became a guy who threw a lot of slow curve balls for strikes, occasionally throw a sinker, spot his fastball.
Adam Kennedy lifts it to shallow center. Beltran coming in. And that'll do it. And might do it for El Duque's afternoon. We'll see. A 2-run homer by Rick Ankiel adds to the damage. 5-1 St. Louis through 2.5. Met fans, the CW11 has some great news this year. All regular season Mets games can be seen in high definition here on the CW11. Now you can enjoy all the big plays in amazing HD quality all season long. The CW11, this is the place for Mets baseball in HD. Jose Reyes leads off the home third against Todd Wellemeyer. And takes off the plate 1-0. Reyes flied to right his first time up. Right now you'd have to say that Reyes and Wright and Beltran all are right where they need to be to start the season. Let's have some issues, but those guys who are the cornerstones of this team are not an issue at all. Short hop by Izturis, and he throws out Reyes. Well, I'll tell you what, Izturis has had a rough spring at shortstop. He has not looked the part this afternoon.
He's putting on a clinic today. It was not an easy play. Played it on the short hop. Made it look easy. It was not an easy play.
1 out for Castillo. You know, thinking about Reyes and Wright and Beltran, those are the core players of this franchise. And you look around at other major league teams trying to build winning programs, and that's ultimately what you want to do. You want to put together a core of players young enough that they can play together for the long term, and all 3 are signed now to long-term deals and will be part of this franchise for years to come. And I don't think you could ask for a better trio. I mean, you've got obviously a huge pitching piece in place now with Santana. And obviously he'll be part of that long-term program as well. But, you know, pitching is a little more iffy. And you know, next year Santana and Maine are under contract. Everybody else is up in the air as far as starting pitching is concerned. But when you've got those core position players to build around, it just makes the general manager's job that much easier in terms of building the club, as Castillo draws a 4-pitch walk.
Well, yeah, it's just where you want it to be. I think the teams I played on had similar kind of veteran leadership with Hernandez and Carter, with the cornerstones of Strawberry and Gooden. It didn't always work out as well as it should have, but that couldn't put together better pieces than those four.
David hit the ball hard his first time up and grounded out to his Turris at short. Mets have pitched extraordinarily well this spring. But I will say this, there's a lot of burden placed on that trio we're talking about, Reyes, Wright, and Beltran, to be the offensive generator for this team.
It's almost like they help each other out, though. They're so talented that, one, they can pick each other up. Two, I think as a trio that can say to themselves, hey, listen, none of us has to hit 40 and drive at 140. We all have our solid year. David Johnson was that was his key thing he would say to all of the players in spring training when we have his talk. He said the most important thing, I'll tell you after this pitch.
Right down swinging, that's the second out.
He would say, well, listen, we don't need Darling to win 20 games. We need him to pitch 230 innings. We need Strawberry to get 550 at bats. We need Keith to get, have another Gold Glove year at first base. Carter to play as many innings as he can. So now, if those guys do that, the numbers are going to come, because they're just so talented that they can't not come.
There's Beltran, who grounded out to Pujols his first time up. Wellmeyer looking very solid. He's going to be their second game starter against Colorado. Adam Wainwright will go opening day, and Wellmeyer is slotted to that number 2 hole, which is awfully impressive for a guy they got off waivers who had been relieving games in Kansas City last year. Check swing foul ball.
I think John Maine called his agent once he found out Adam Wainwright signed a 4-year deal with 2 more options that could be 6 years, $36 million at some point. Wainwright, of course, a bright young pitcher for the Cardinals. Won 14 games for them last year in a down season for the team.
And in an otherwise patched together rotation, he is the one linchpin in that rotation. Slider misses 1 and 2. I mean, you look at Wainwright, Wellmeyer in the second spot, Brad Thompson, who's been kind of a swing man in the 3rd hole, then Braden Looper, who had a pretty good year last year, first year as a starter, and then Kyle Loesch, who they just signed late off the scrap heap,
who had a good start yesterday of 5 innings, really just holding fort until they can get back Carpenter and Mulder. Mulder threw 3 innings yesterday in a simulated game.
And Matt Clement, they hope, as well. Beltran grounds out. We're through 3, 5-1 St. Louis. The guy many consider the future closer of the Mets, Eddie Coons, on the mound to start the 4th inning. Facing Todd Wellemeyer, who takes a strike, while Coons works on the mound, the very much prominent current closer of the Mets, as Mike Pelfrey gets ready in the bullpen. Billy Wagner is standing by with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Oh, thanks, Gary. We are here with Billy Wagner, and a little college basketball chat with you and Coach Knight. How'd you get him on over here?
Well, I mean, I'm a big fan of Bobby's anyway, and then when you see him over there, I just sent him a ball over saying that I asked him what happened to Pitt, because he had been boasting about how good Pitt was, and so I wanted to give him a hard time, and so he came over here and we just talked a little bit about basketball. And once he found out I was a Duke fan, I hope he liked me more.
It's funny, in the clubhouse today, someone posted a big West Virginia logo. Did you find the culprit of that yet?
I know Charlie. I know Charlie was the one in there running it off. I mean, they're just jealous because of success. And, you have a bump in the road, and, that's just the way it is.
Hey, how did your minor league game go? I know you threw over in the minor league game because there's no real innings here today. How'd that go for you?
I didn't go at all. I didn't even pitch.
Oh, really?
No, I just came over here and watched the game, and didn't want to go over there and face minor league hitters. I mean, I'm as good as I'm going to get.
Well, it's a pretty good job out of you, just hanging out today.
Yeah, I actually had a decent inning for once, so I didn't need to go down there and have minor leaguers wearing me out off the wall and then have to feel bad about how my spring's going. So, I felt fine, and I'm just here watching the game now.
On a serious note, we talked early in the spring about just adding some new things to your repertoire, and you've been working on the changeup more and the curve, and working from the full windup as well. And it seems like you've been real comfortable with all three. I mean, you've used the change a lot in the games, the curve, and you've used the windup. How do you feel right now with the things that you've added to your arsenal so far?
Well, I mean, it's coming. I think there's always room for improvement, but as far as how it's come along, I'm impressed. I mean, I didn't expect it to be this successful this early, especially the changeup, and that's really a pitch that's going to save me a lot of at-bats. I've seen a difference on how my fastball has improved because of the guys having to kind of watch both sides of the plate, and that's what I'm looking for. And the success that I've had with being able to pitch away to the righty and really use both parts of the plate and through the changeup has really just increased how effective I am.
I feel like the windup gives you a little more zip on the fastball too.
No, I don't, not at all. I think what it does is just lets you relax a little bit, and it doesn't seem like there's as much effort into making a pitch out of the windup. I think when you go to the stretch, and I've done it for 12 years, it gets a little monotonous and it gets a little boring. Yeah. And so I felt like there was time for a change, considering dang.
A couple of high throws here, and the Cardinals have runners on first and second. Just looking for a change of pace, basically.
Yeah, just something to just make it a little bit more interesting for myself. I mean, the hitters get comfortable seeing the same thing over and over when you come out there, and adding that windup, they can't really time you as well, and because everything is a little bit slower, and then that perception is it helps my fastball to if I make a mistake, maybe they're a little late, or I get by with one.
So when you talk about the pitches now that you really have 4 pitches you could throw, but I'm assuming as a reliever, you won't go into a game with all 4. Will you just see how the bullpens go and decide how will that work for you?
No, I mean, I've already pretty much narrowed it down to what I want to do. I want to go out there and keep my fastball and slider, but the change is something that is definitely making the trip up north. So that's something that I'm going to win some battles and lose some battles with, and hopefully by the time the war is about over, I'll be ready to go.
The bullpen as a whole is very, very good this spring training. Do you feel is spring training a week too long? Is back to the mound, and Coons will go to first for the one out there. Schumacher that is retired. Do you guys feel that the spring training is a little bit too long, maybe a week too long for you?
About 2 weeks too long. I mean, that's what Bobby came over here and was telling me that Duncan thinks that the pitchers need more time, and I was like, I disagree. I think we should have been out of here 2 weeks ago, because but that's coming from a reliever. I mean, it doesn't take us that long. I think what happens for relievers when you're down here, you get a little bored. It gets monotonous sitting here doing the same thing. The games don't count. You don't have adrenaline, and so you get into some bad habits at times. And where the starters need time to build up their arm strength. So that's something that for me, over time. I just think it's too long.
Castillo comes home, a nice throw at the plate. Casanova applies the tag. Wellmeyer's out and prevents the run, and there's 2 away now. And that just final question for you. With that being said, what do you work on now? With these games left, when you're out there, what are you trying to do?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, me and Peterson have really set up a good plan of just establishing the fastball away and trying to have quick, easy innings, face a minimum amount of hitters, and just stay with the plan. And I think having the plan has helped kind of break up the monotony. And a lot of times, as you're young and you're a power pitcher, you want to build up that arm strength, so you get out there and you overthrow a little bit, where now the experience is kind of taken over to say, my velocity, my strength will be there. Let's just follow the game plan and try to get better each time of hitting that outside corner and mixing in the changeup.
Billy, thanks for the time. We'll see you soon, okay?
I appreciate it.
Billy Wagner, guys. Albert Pujols at the plate. Back to you.
All right, Kevin, fascinating stuff, and I still want to know why a guy from Virginia roots for Duke. 2-0 to Pujols. Meanwhile, Eddie Coons, the Mets' first pick last year out of Oregon State, known as a ground ball machine. He's gotten 4 ground balls, and bad things happen on the first 3.
The key for Willie, you need to put in a taller first baseman. I think that was the key to this inning.
And then Coons on the comebacker, for some reason, didn't go for the double play.
He was startled. He was lucky he made the play. That was one of those where the ball finds your glove.
So now he's facing Pujols with first and third and 2 out. And he's behind him 3-0.
I know what Billy's talking about, though. I always felt the spring training was a week too long. I remember pitching a Mayor's Trophy game against the Yankees. No hit them for 5 innings in my last tune-up. Came in, the reporters were, "Oh, you must feel great." I'm like, what a waste. What a waste.
Pujols swinging 3-0, and he fouls it off.
To have a great game like that in a game that means nothing. I mean, it means everything because it was for charity, but it means nothing as far as a season.
But really, the length of spring training is only for the starting pitchers.
And I still think it's a week too long now because these guys throw a lot more than we did. They throw almost all year long.
Mike Pelfrey getting ready to pitch. Pujols cracks one into left for a base hit, and that'll chase a run home. Is Turris in to score? And it's 6-1 St. Louis. Well, Kuhn's got 4 straight ground balls, but he gives up a rope to Pujols to bring a run in.
Well, the great thing about Albert is that you cannot keep one book on him. You can't just pitch him in or pitch him away because he is such an intelligent hitter, and his ability to get on top of those high fastballs is one of his great keys.
Here's Rick Ankiel, and he lines one the other way. That's a base hit. Turning third is Miles. The throw to the plate by Pagan on target. Casanova with the tag, and Miles is out. So 2 runners thrown out at the plate in the inning. 1 by Castillo and 1 by Pagan. And that limits the damage after the errors by Reyes and Wright. Nicely done. Casanova with the tag. Miles didn't try to run him. 6-1 St. Louis. Nicely done by Pagan. Marlon Anderson leads off for the Mets in the bottom of the 4th, up for the first time. Took over for Delgado at first base after Delgado hit a booming double the other way and scored in his only at bat. And we are told that it was planned all along that Delgado would only play the first 2 innings. Just in case anybody was wondering. Takes a fastball outside, 2-1. Marlon Anderson just gets up there and he hits.
He's a machine.
Pops this one up foul, and that'll make it out of play.
You know who he reminds me of? An old teammate of mine, spring training in '82, Al Oliver.
Oh, wow.
It was a hitting machine, but he was like Marlon. They could go up and they could take a really vicious cut. Most guys, you know, try to like a nice short stroke. Marlon gets up there and he is swinging. And Al Oliver's like that.
Not quite Gary Sheffield.
No,
in terms of the violence of the approach. But Marlon, every at bat, and of course, you know, as a pinch hitter, your at bats are precious, but every at bat he seems to get the pitch he wants to hit.
It's like he's locked in every single time.
3-2 from Wellemeyer. Well, you couldn't ask for a guy with a better demeanor to be a part-time player. And a guy who is very comfortable with his situation and his role after last year having a very frustrating time of it in LA, where he wasn't quite appreciated for what he can do here. And he hits this one hard. It eats up Miles, but he stays with it and gets Anderson for the first down. Check that. That's Kennedy. Miles playing third base. So 1 away. Come out for the 2008 Mets Anthem Search at SNY Studios in Manhattan, Wednesday, March 26th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. For more details, visit Mets.com today. Here's Angel Pagan. Grounded out to second base in his first at bat. Throws a fastball by him 0-2.
I'm impressed with Wellemeyer's velocity. I mean, he has been on hitters' counts throwing the ball right by him.
Consistently 91-92. Pagan fouls it back.
You know, you're talking about reclamation projects at Duncan, and I sort of was one. I definitely was one myself years and years ago. But I will say that he really is very good at approaching older pitchers who have maybe been broken down confidence-wise and able to rebuild their confidence. And also, he's very good at explaining what kind of pitcher you are now. Not what pitcher you were. Forget about who you were, how you pitched, how you got guys out. This is how you are right now, and this is the way you're going to get people out if you choose to.
Pagan rolls over one, and that's the second out. Same way Willamar got him out the first time up. The first run of the ball game brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. And the first Met run was plated by Ryan Church, who drove home Carlos Delgado. Those two doubles off Wellemeyer, the only two hits he's allowed. The Cardinals with a 6-1 lead as the Mets bat in the bottom of the fourth. And here's Church. And that RBI for Ryan was his first of the spring. Coming in his 37th at bat. Of course, his spring has had some fits and starts. He had the collision with Marlon Anderson that led to a concussion. He had a much happier event, the birth of his son, a couple of weeks ago. And Ryan just now at the point where he's getting to play every day and feel a little more comfortable.
That is the pitch that nationally pitchers will feature against Ryan a lot. That is that changeup from Wellemeyer. Book has always been on Ryan. You got to pound him in, soft stuff away.
The pound him in part misses, 2-2. Ryan Church out of the University of Nevada, where he pitched as well as played the outfield, and he got to show off that throwing arm the other day with a terrific throw from right field. Changeup misses, 3-2. Ryan Church grew up a big fan of Chipper Jones as a kid. Used to employ the Chipper foot tap, but found out a few years ago it didn't work for him and abandoned that and went to more of his own style. Lifts this one to left field, and Duncan is right there. Side retired. So the Mets are on 1-2-3 before Wellemeyer has looked awfully good today. We go to the fifth. Pelfrey on to pitch for the Mets. Home fifth inning, Mets down 6-1. Raul Casanova leads off against Todd Wellemeyer, who's gone all the way for St. Louis. Casanova walked his first time up, one of two walks yielded by Wellemeyer. I mentioned earlier, Robinson Cancel is going to have knee surgery, torn meniscus. It's the same injury that Paul LaDuca suffered that had his spring training start late. So clearly Cancel is not an option for the opening day roster should Schneider or Castro not be ready, and that puts Casanova in an advantageous position. And Casanova hits a one-hopper to Asturias, who makes another beautiful pick. That's the way the day started, and Asturias just keeps on picking him. One away.
Well, this one a little side saddle, but has the glove down, and with those soft hands makes it an easy play. You know, I forgot about that part of spring training. I was here yesterday just doing some work because I don't have the ability to use a computer at home, and I was on the field and I came out and Robinson Cancel was limping to his car.
Tatis hits one past Miles and down the line. Fernando Tatis has been swinging a hot bat, and in the first pitch he sees today, he pulls a double. So Tatis making a late bid for a spot on this club and looking good.
He's been very aggressive too since he's been here. I guess when you have visa problems, you show up late. You don't want to see too many pitches. Let's go. We'll get him. Showed good speed too. I didn't know he ran that well.
And Tatis has 4 hits in his last 6 at bats now, so he's making up for lost time. And with the Mets' need for a right-hand hitter, Tatis, who's 33 years old now and had one great season in his past, although it's 9 years ago, he certainly has a shot. Willie's been using him at different positions. He's playing him in left field today. He's played some second base. Reyes is 0 for 2. And he takes outside.
To finish that story on Cancel, so I saw him yesterday walking out of the clubhouse, head down, so disappointed. And I asked him what had happened. He told me about the injury. And, you know, when guys get to a certain point where you really got a shot, it's so disappointing when you have those kind of injuries, especially this late in spring training.
I mean, Cancel's not a kid. He's 31 years old. He's had one brief cup of coffee in the big leagues with Milwaukee. Reyes pulls one down the right field line for a base hit. That'll score Tatis. Reyes will stop it first as Schumacher gets it in. It's an RBI single for Jose Reyes, and now it's 6-2 St. Louis.
Little change up here from Wellemeyer. Nice job of Reyes of just staying back just enough to hook that ball into right field. Keith always talks about that level swing. Nice swing there by Reyes.
So here's Luis Castillo, who's grounded to short and walked 0 for 1. Reyes has not done a whole lot of running this spring. He's stolen 3 bases, and that's probably plenty. I mean, you want to be aggressive to a point, but you don't want to waste your bullets.
There's no need for him to steal, to risk any kind of injury in spring training, especially sometimes you get, some of those call-ups, AAA guys playing.
To center field for Ankiel, and there are 2 away.
And what I mean by that, you get a guy in the infield from AAA, might not be as schooled, so ends up laying down a hard tag or dropping a knee in front of the bag. And plus, you're 6'2" here anyway. You need a big hit from a few of your hitters to get back into this game.
David Wright is grounded to short and struck out 0 for 2. We mentioned Tatis, and the Mets looking around for right-handed bats, and now they've got Brady Clark here, and they've got Tatis here. And so far, anyway, Omar Minaya and Willie Randolph have kind of intimated that whatever answers the Mets are looking for are here. But that doesn't mean they're not looking around and seeing what's going on elsewhere. And to that end, the Toronto Blue Jays today released Reed Johnson, who had been a starting player before he hurt his back last year. They're going to play Shannon Stewart in left field, so they let Johnson go.
I think Johnson's a solid player. I think he's a hard-nosed player, but I don't think he's such an advancement over Brady Clark. I think, in fact, they're very similar players. Johnson might have the edge on outfield play and speed. Clark maybe the edge on getting base hits.
1-1 to right, and the slider in for a strike, 1-2.
And it's not out of nowhere that Fernando Tatis has played second base, third base, and now left field.
There's no question that the Mets are giving Tatis a long look and an involved look over these last few days. And the way he's hitting right now, I'm sure he'll continue to get those looks. Opening day is a week from tomorrow. The Mets play their last game here in Port St. Lucie Wednesday. They'll be in Memphis for the Civil Rights game on Saturday, and that's their last exhibition. And then back to Miami and get ready for the opener on Monday afternoon, the 31st.
I would assume that they would try to have a workout around 4:30 that Sunday, because I think it'd be important to take batting practice around that time. A very unusual starting time, 4:30.
One and two to right. There goes Reyes, hit in the air to left field. Over toward the corner goes Duncan, and he won't get it. Bounces away from him. That'll enable Reyes to score easily. Wright pulls into second with an RBI double, and now it's 6-3. Ball kept drifting away from Chris Duncan and hit off the base of the fence. And with Reyes running, he scored easily.
Well, you can't teach us. Certain hitters, the ball when it comes off that bat just keeps traveling. Duncan thought he had a line on it for a second, but no. That ball hit too hard, too much on the line for him to get back there to the fence in time. And Reyes hopefully practicing what the Mets would like to see 120 times this year as you see Wellemeyer's reaction.
And that's going to be all for Wellemeyer as he has reached his limit on this Easter Sunday. And the Cardinals will go to the bullpen here in the 5th inning and bring in Kyle McClellan. So Wellemeyer's done. Mets have touched him for a couple of runs here in the 5th. 6-3 St. Louis. We'll be back to Port St. Lucie in a moment. Carlos Beltran up against the new St. Louis pitcher Kyle McClellan. Rico Washington comes in to play third base as well for the Cardinals. There you see what McClellan did last year.
23-year-old right-hander played in Springfield. That's where those numbers come from last year.
Beltran 0 for 2. Twice is grounded out to the right side. David Wright with an RBI double is at second with 2 down. One and 2 to Beltran.
McClellan is a slider specialist. See that good one down and in against Beltran.
McClellan, 23 years old. Pitched a little bit in the Florida State League last year with Palm Beach and then Springfield as well. And it's in there for a call strike 3. Got Beltran looking at a fastball, and that puts an end to the inning. But the Mets put up a couple of runs. Reyes cracking a base hit to get a run in, and then David Wright with a double off the fence and left. 6-3 St. Louis as we head to the 6th. Andy Chavez into play center field for the Mets. Gustavo Molina takes over behind the plate. Mike Pelfrey working his 2nd inning, got the Cardinals out 1-2-3 in the 5th. A 3-inning stint for El Duque today, and it did not go particularly well. Rico Washington has spent 11 years in the minor leagues without a taste of big league action. No wonder he's up there hacking.
Such stops as Bradenton, Erie, Augusta, Georgia, Hickory, Lynchburg, Altoona.
I mean, 11 years in the minors, and he hasn't even spent that much time at AAA. 2-2. Last year, spent part of his season at AA in Springfield, part of AAA in Memphis, where he hit .315, and that probably earned him an invite to spring training. He'll turn 30 in May. Out to shortstop, and Reyes throws out Washington. But you always have to respect the guys with the dream that they just won't let go of. Here's your Mets upcoming schedule, brought to you by Subway. Eat fresh. 1 week to go in the exhibition season, including that game in Memphis on the 29th, Saturday. And then the Mets open the season in Florida. 3 games against the Marlins, and then 3 against the Braves on the road to open the season. Cesar Izturis has popped to short and reached on an error, 0 for 2. Mets home opener will be on a Tuesday this year, which is a little unusual.
Monday off day, right?
April the 8th, 1:10 in the afternoon against the Phillies.
You know, I was a little fearful. I was in New York most of the winter, and it was a very mild winter, but I've heard the weather has gotten colder. Because when it's not cold in March, you know what that means? April's going to be tragic.
Chopped over the mound. Tough play. No play. And it's up the middle and into center field. Izturis finding the hole. And that's the first hit off Pelfrey. Well, you never know what you're going to get opening day. The Mets opened the season one year. In fact, it was against the Phillies. I think it was the first time they ever opened in March, as a matter of fact. 96, 97 in there somewhere. 87 degrees at game time on the 31st of March. 87. Now, I might add, it was probably about 50 by the end of the game. But we've seen the Mets open in snow and rain and cold. Scott Schumacher 1 for 3, but at least if you spend the first week on the road playing in the South, you give yourself a little better chance.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about opening up in Florida. Just, you know, you have the rain to deal with in Florida, but you know the temperature is going to be warm enough.
Schumacher takes a fastball for a strike.
So you and I are assuming that Glavine will not pitch in that first series against the Mets, right? Are we making that assumption? That he probably is going to pitch, what, the second game for Atlanta?
Well, the thing about that is that Glavine's going to have to face the Mets eventually.
Yeah.
Schumacher hits it well to left center field. A long run for Chavez or Tatis, and Tatis can't get it. To third goes Izturis. He'll be waved home, bobbled by Reyes, and that cost him a play at the plate. It's a double for Schumacher, 7-3 St. Louis.
Again, we see that Schumacher, like he is double in the first inning to lead off the game, showing great power to left center field, and Reyes with the bobble, no chance to get the runner at home plate. Izturis, who read this ball very well, to tell you the truth, because Tatis almost came up with it. Once he saw it's bobbled, he was halfway to third.
It was quite an effort by Tatis, who's a career infielder, being tried in the outfield as Miles fouls it off. Tatis almost able to come up with that stumbling play.
It's interesting, if he makes that play, that would have been just as impressive to Willie and his crew as any base hit he could get.
Frankly, I think the fact that he came as close as he did was a pretty good sign.
Yeah.
Miles is 0 for 2 and a walk, and he lines one into center field, falling fast, base hit. Schumacher had to hold up. He'll stop at third. As Pelfrey, who did not back up home or third, catches the ball at the mound. That's not where he was supposed to be, and Marlon Anderson nearly ran him down on the cutoff.
Well, Andy with a little fake there throws Schumacher at second base. See, he comes back. Coach is telling him, you better take a look. It's a pretty good center fielder out there.
So here's Pujols with first and third and one out. 3 hits in the inning off Pelfrey. And he misses outside.
And again, I guess we get back to the consistency of Mr. Pelfrey, is that he can have an inning where he can blow away the hitters, and then the next inning look like he's a little lost.
And he's behind on Pujols 2-0.
By the way, does Albert Pujols start every at bat 2-0? Seems like it, doesn't it? Always ahead in the count.
Well, nobody wants to throw him a first pitch fastball anywhere near the hitting zone. Slider on the corner, 2-1. I mean, there you go, 2-0 slider.
And a good one, too. Problem is, you've thrown a good one. Can you do it 2 times in a row? That's the problem. Inside with a fastball.
And a good one, 2-2. Well, Pelfrey, when he's at his best, is getting ground balls.
And that's the pitch he'll get a ground ball with.
And he could use one now with first and third and one out.
Does he double up inside, or does he go back to that slider? Doubling up inside, I think, would be a nice choice. Let's see.
Galena sets up in there, and it's grounded, but toward the hole. Reyes with the diving stop, but has no play as a run comes in. Well, Pelfrey did everything right except direct the ball to a fielder.
And good hitters, that's what they'll do. Wright with a nice try. Dive by Wright, dive by Reyes. Reyes up with the ball, but of course no play.
And Wright a little bit shaken. after making that dive.
Well, a lot of times what will happen for a player is that an infielder, when you dive, you'll sometimes fall on that protective cup and it'll kind of knock the air out of you.
So David a little bit deflated. And here's Rick Ankiel with 2 on and 1 out. 4 hits in the inning off Pelfrey. A soft one by Asturias to start it. 2 well-hit balls by Schumacher and Miles. And then Pujols with that seeing eye hit on the left side. So Miles and Pujols aboard with 1 away. 8-3 St. Louis. As Pelfrey tries to stop the bleeding. Ankiel won't let him. Deep to right center. Back goes Pagan. Right back near the fence, he makes the play. And the runners will have to return. Ankiel almost had his second home run of the day. But the wind blowing in just a bit from right field might have cost him.
He covered that ball. That's a bad break for Ankiel. Good break for Pelfrey as that wind just blew that right back in. A smile on his face because he knows what happened there.
Hit a 2-run shot up onto the berm off El Duque in the 3rd. First time Ankiel's been retired today, and he almost had a 3-run homer out of it. Duncan takes ball 1. Chris Duncan, broken bat hit in the 1st inning that drove home 2. Since then he struck out and grounded out. 2-2 we're in the 6th. 8-3 the score. We're in the 6th. 2-0 to Duncan. And Pelfrey behind 3-0. So Mike, after an impressive 1-2-3 5th inning, not finding his groove here in the 6th. And he walked him to fill the bases. And you just wonder if the Mets, in their wisdom, don't believe El Duque is ready. And there's no reason watching him today to think that he will be. If Pelfrey fails to impress today, what's plan C?
Yeah. I was going to say only the shadow knows, but only Omar knows.
We're going to get a pinch runner here. And that is Colby Rasmus, who will come in to run for Pujols. He gets a nice hand from the Cardinal contingent as he exits. So Molina steps in with the bases loaded and 2 down. And he pops it up. And that's a big pitch for Pelfrey. In comes Chavez. Out goes Castillo. Chavez has the play. And that puts an end to the inning. But 4 hits produce 2 runs for St. Louis. 8-3 Cardinals. Changes for the Cardinals. Chris Duncan moves over to play first base. Aaron Miles moves from 3rd base to 2nd. D'Angelo Jimenez is in to play shortstop as Marlon Anderson leads off and takes ball 1. New outfield for the Cardinals. Brian Barton in left. Colby Rasmus in center. Ryan Ludwig is now in right. And Anderson fouls it back 1-1. Marlon came in to play first base when Carlos Delgado left after 2 innings. Why did he leave? It's his son Carlos's first birthday.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations.
Easter Bunny making his rounds. I think he ever runs out of eggs. Marlon cracks one to left, but right at Barton. And that's the first out. Here's your game summary. Brought to you by Jeep. El Duque was the focus of attention today. Gave up 3 runs in the 1st and then the 2-run homer to Ankiel in the 3rd. Mike Pelfrey has had 1 good inning, 1 bad inning. And the Mets find themselves down 8-3 as they bat in the bottom of the 6th. Angel Pagan has grounded out twice to the second baseman, and he takes a strike. 1-1 to Pagan. Facing Kyle McClellan, who came in to get the final out in the 5th inning. One and 2 to Pagan. He spent 6 years in the Mets farm system before moving on to the Cubs, where he got his first big league taste. And now trying to take advantage of an opportunity. And as a young player, that's so much of what the game is about. Curveball, and he got him. Molina slaps the tag on Pagan for the 2nd out.
Good curveball here by McClellan. We've seen him already with that slider and curveball be very effective in spotting that sinking fastball. You're right, Gary. You know, if you're a #1 pick, you're probably going to get 3 or 4 chances if you to fail. But if you're not, and you're one of those young players, you might only get 1 or 2 chances. You got to make the most of it.
Sometimes it's not how good you are, it's how good you are at the time when a job is open.
That's right.
Mike Pelfrey batting for the first time. And that chance might be there for Pelfrey. It was last year, and he took advantage of it to win an opening day job. Miles throws out Pelfrey. The Mets are down 1-2-3 in the bottom of the 6th. On to the 7th we go. 8-3 Cardinals. In your Easter bonnet with all the frills upon it. That would qualify, wouldn't it?
Oh, my God.
Meet the Mets.
Take someone's eye out with it was attached correctly.
Gustavo Molina will lead off the home 7th inning. Standing next to Yadier Molina, no relation. It's hard to believe, isn't it?
Other than the tools of ignorance.
Well, that's exactly right. You have the 3 Molina brothers and then Gustavo. He's like Zeppo. Kyle McClellan starting his 3rd inning, misses low.
Zeppo, Shemp.
Gummo. By the way, you asked the question earlier about Albert Pujols' 2-0 count.
Yeah.
You asked how often does that happen? Well, Bob Waterman right on the stick from the Elias Sports Bureau. Last year in the major leagues, Barry Bonds got to 2-0 to begin and at bat 146 times, the most in the majors. Albert was 2nd, 145. You know who was 6th? Ooh, Molina gets out of the way. A breaking ball. 6th on that list. As you look at Molina escaping the curveball. Jose Reyes.
Wow.
That surprised you.
Yeah, it does, because, you know, you think of him as a more aggressive hitter than those two, Bonds and Pujols.
And David Wright tied for 7th in the majors. Breaking ball in for a call, 3rd strike. Molina down looking. 3rd strikeout for McClellan, who's retired all 5 to face him. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Guys, just listening to Orlando Hernandez address the media, and his outing to him was okay. He felt no pain, but he was not pleased with his mechanics at all. He said he just didn't feel right, and he said he was actually, he thought, working too fast to the plate, which I found interesting, especially the first inning through 32 pitches. At times seemed a little bit slow, but Ronnie, maybe you can address that. He said maybe too fast to the plate, so no pain, but certainly not exactly where he wants to be after his outing today, guys.
Yeah, Kevin, you hit that nail on the head. I think that he was. And as we see this ground ball to 3rd base by Tatis, what they've been working on in his motion on the side, they've been working on a couple things. One, to keep his head level, because he had a tendency to lift his chin. So they want to keep his chin down. And the second thing that you have to work on this that's different than his other is the lag. And the lag is that when you lift your knee up, his hands are over his head, you got to have a place where you stop. And you stop, regroup, and then proceed to the plate. And I think that was a little rushed, and I think that's what he was talking about.
So it wasn't a matter of too quick a pace between pitches. You're talking about rushing his body to the plate.
That you have to, when you raise your leg, you got to make sure that you regroup on top of the mound, stand very tall, regroup on top of the mound, stop that's called a lag, and then proceed with all of your intentions towards the plate. I think what happens sometimes, the transition area, which is when his knee is up, was a little rushed, and he never could get his arm out in front. That's probably why a lot of those fastballs were up in the strike zone.
Breaking ball, Reyes hits it to deep right center field. Rasmus back in the gap, can't get it. Reyes on the run, the ball bounces over the fence. He would have had a triple, but he'll have to come on back. So Reyes settles for a ground rule double.
Well, this is the first hitter for the Mets who seemed to solve McClellan's curveball, as Reyes was able to wait back on that breaking ball. You know, early in his career, you guys talked about it many times. He had a tendency to swing over the top of those curveballs, but he's been so much better the last couple of years of making sure if he's going to swing at a curveball, it's in the strike zone.
So here's Luis Castillo, who's 0 for 2 in a walk. That was the Mets' 6th hit of the game, the 2nd for Reyes. Slapped to short, and Jimenez throws out Castillo to end the inning. So a double in one left. On to the 8th. It's been the Cardinals afternoon, leading 8-3. Changes for the Cardinals. D'Angelo Jimenez moves over to play second base. Jose Martinez is in to play short. Mark Johnson now doing the catching, and Kelvin Jimenez is doing the pitching. As David Wright takes a strike. David doubled in a run his last time up.
Well, that's his numbers in St. Louis. He spent most of the year in Memphis, appearing in 30 games. Had an amazing spring training for the Cardinals last year, where he had an ERA under 1, but was the final cut for that relief pen, awarded with the September call-up.
Davis played the entire game at third base today. As the days get short before the games that matter. Slowly hit to third. In comes Rico Washington, and he throws out right, one away. You know how when you're at the beach, oftentimes late in the day, you'd have those planes fly over, trailing advertising for restaurants, dinner
happy
time.
Hours, all that stuff.
That's the flashback I just got when that plane started flying over. Of course, it's toting an ad for a car dealership. But I was thinking it's almost, it's almost early bird hour here in Florida, so
that's right.
Maybe it's time to be toting the sign for the buffet.
What is it? 3:35. You're less than an hour away from restaurants packed.
4:15. They're lining up. Andy Chavez leads off. Andy up for the first time in the game. We're in the bottom of the 8th, 8-3 St. Louis, as Chavez chops one out to short. Jose Martinez guns him out, 2 out. That's 95, but 95 with a bullet. I would dare say that this spring we have seen more players in major league exhibition games with numbers in the 90s and no name on their back than I've ever seen before. Marlon Anderson 0 for 2. And he takes ball 1.
Well, I think there's been an easing up, see that number, as far as who teams bring on the road. You used to always see at least 4 or 5 of the stars, at least 4. And that is not always the case lately. Or this year, the last 2 years, I've seen teams bring less than stellar lineups. That's not to say that they can't beat you too, because they can. These kids are hungry. But
and even if they bring the requisite 4 starters, which you're supposed to bring, instead of bringing their backup players to back up, they'll bring minor leaguers.
Yes.
Well, the Mets have certainly had their share of guys in the 80s and 90s with no names on their backs, but mostly that's been because of injuries this spring. We've seen less of that over the last few days. Good changeup by Jimenez, 1-2.
Well, you can see why they like his arm. 93 to 95 miles an hour, and then that beautiful changeup from Jimenez.
Anderson pounds it foul.
You see Dave Duncan on the right-hand side. That's the pitching coach for the Cardinals. Charts every pitch, every direction of where the base hit goes.
I think maybe that was one of Bobby's old Indiana shirts. He just peeled off the Hoosiers logo and put a red bird on there.
He probably did. He's still comfortable in red, isn't he?
Well, you got Vital touting him for a return to Bloomington.
Yes.
Fastball just inside. Jimenez was walking off toward the dugout. It's not such a sweet move.
No, the umpires hate that. But sorry, but Mr. Moser behind the plate missed that pitch.
Change up outside. Marlins worth the count full. Well, after you take those 2 or 3 steps toward the dugout, you're probably not going to get the next call.
Yeah, no chance. You're hoping it's a swing and a miss. I should say, though, there hasn't been really any argument about the way Mr. Moser's called the game. It's been, and you don't hear about the umpires. They're doing a great job.
And Anderson draws a walk. So the Mets have a 2-out base runner. And now Brady Clark will come up for the first time.
Well, if there's a depth chart, no one's moved up quicker than Fernando Tatis. I mean, he hasn't been here very long, but he's crept his way along that depth chart.
Well, Brady Clark's had himself a good spring, and you know the way things are beginning to shape up. Again, you don't know if the Mets are going to carry an extra position player to start the season and go with 4 starters. The intimations have been that they won't, but with El Duque not looking ready and Pelfrey struggling a bit, you wonder whether that might influence things off the performance today. And if there is an extra job to be had on that bench, then certainly Tatis and Clark are in line for it.
And it wouldn't be a demotion for Pelfrey and El Duque as much as it would give them time to get ready. More for El Duque, of course, than Pelfrey, who's making his 5th appearance.
Clark lines one into center, and he's got himself another hit. And Brady has done nothing but burnish his credentials as this spring training's gone along.
Well, he's pounded in by Jimenez, so what does Clark do? Intelligently stays inside the baseball, hits the ball the other way. And Pelfrey gets his 2nd at bat.
Well, Pelfrey had himself 2 rough innings, got helped out by that double play that Anderson started and Pelfrey finished in the 7th. Backed that up with a 1-2-3/8. And now we're going to turn it back here and try and pitch 1 more inning in the 9th.
And Mike's going to try to have a little better at bat than the last time. I'm sure he took some ribbing as he was sawed off inside. Caught one right on the knuckles.
So 0-2 to Pelfrey.
It's just different, Gary. A lot of, you know, when I played, most of the pitchers had been players through high school, mostly a lot of them through college. Guys are so special now. It's specialization. They pitch and only pitch in college.
Jimenez gets Pelfrey on the comebacker. And so it's on to the ninth. Pelfrey back to the mound, 8-3 St. Louis. Mike Pelfrey has worked 4 innings in relief. He's thrown 58 pitches. He's allowed 2 runs and 7 hits. Walked 1 and struck out 1. Yadier Molina has played the whole game behind the plate. And he takes a slider for a strike.
Well, remember when you saw the sheet, you said they only brought 1 catcher? Well, they only needed 1, I guess.
Ruben Gotay takes over for David Wright at third base. And another slider from Pelfrey, 1-1. Orlando Hernandez went 3 innings today. Took him 67 pitches to get through 3 innings. He allowed 5 runs, 4 hits. Ryan Franklin will be trying to close things for the Cardinals as Molina lines his first hit of the day. And hit number 14 for St. Louis. And that's 8 hits and 4 innings plus off Pelfrey.
So it's what, 17 innings and 24 hits.
Jose Martinez. Last year played at Palm Beach in the Florida State League, Springfield in the Texas League. He hit 12 home runs. And that's why, because he swings the bat about as hard as you can swing it. He's not a very big guy. As you look at the pitch count on Pelfrey, up to 66. But that was quite a hack.
Big swing stuck in a little man's body.
And he drives that one to left field right at Tatis, who made it look harder than it was. 1 out. Again, he's an infielder learning to play the outfield. But interestingly, I'm looking at Jose Martinez's numbers last year. 12 home runs in the minors in 476 at bats, only 44 strikeouts, which, considering how hard he swings, is not bad. Here's Rico Washington, who's 1 for 2. He pulls that one through the hole. Base hit. Molina to second. And that's 15 St. Louis hits. And Pelfrey, who is a guy who's supposed to get ground balls, is not getting his share today. There's D'Angelo Jimenez. You see the ugly numbers. For the most part this spring, the Mets pitching has been spectacular. Not today. Jimenez, veteran switch hitter, takes a fastball off the plate. And you see the numbers on Pelfrey in that balloon in the hit column. And now he's behind 2-0 on Jimenez.
Jimenez is a guy who's been around a long time too, right, Terry?
San Diego, Cleveland, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And Pelfrey really struggling now, 3-0. There's nobody up in the Mets bullpen. Pelfrey is expected to finish this inning. All quiet. There's a strike, 3-1. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Jimenez begin in the Yankee organization?
Yes. Highly touted in the Yankee organization.
Rips that one foul. 3-2. He came up right behind Jeter.
I think. Yeah, it had to be right behind him, right? Jeter's been there so long now.
But Jeter came up in what, 95?
95, I believe.
Right. That was Jimenez's first year in the organization, so he was 3 years behind him. Toward the hole, Anderson can't get it, and that one sneaks through. Molina stops at third, and on 3 singles, the Cardinals have loaded the bases with 1 out. So the hits just keep on coming. That one not hit hard, just found the hole. In 1999, D'Angelo Jimenez hit .327 at Columbus, drove in 88 runs, and got a cup of coffee with the Yankees, but that would be the only year that he actually played for them. He wound up getting traded to the Padres in the middle of the 2001 season for Jay Wittasek. Brian Barton up for the second time, and he shoots a base hit up the middle. Molina scores. Washington heads home. Chavez's throw goes to third, not in time. Throw to second by Gotay, gets away. Getting up and coming home to score is Jimenez. 3-run score on the play. Barton winds up at third, and it's 11-3 St. Louis. And Mike Pelfrey's ugly afternoon getting ugly.
There's Rick Peterson going to talk to the young Pelfrey. A lot of balls hit hard in this game against Mike. I'll tell you how long Jeter and Rivera have been around. Put it in perspective, maybe. I started my last year a game against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. Shortstop, Derek Jeter. The starting pitcher for the Yankees that day, Mariano Rivera.
Wow, starting pitcher.
Starting pitcher.
Base hit to center field for Amari Marti. And they are just teeing off on Pelfrey now. That'll bring home another one as Barton scores to make it 12-3.
It's just because these first pitch fastballs are just up in the strike zone for Mike. I know that Rick has his 190 line that you try to keep the ball at that line or below on the mounds in the backfield.
That is Brandon Knoll up in the Mets bullpen, as Pelfrey might need bailing out after all. Colby Rasmus up for the second time, fouls it off, and it's 0-2.
You know what he could do, and then this is just, it's just a simple thing he could do. When guys are kind of teeing off on you like this, just stand one up. Stand one of these hitters up, throw something inside off the plate, 4 or 5 inches. Just make sure you know what's going on. Just letting them know that, hey, listen, okay, you might be getting to me today, but I'm not going to take it. You know what I mean? You're going to get backed off the plate a little bit, and then we'll go back to work. Now, I'm not saying hit anyone. You never want to hit people just because they're hitting you.
And Rasmus drives it to deep right field. Back goes Clark at the wall, and it's out of here. Colby Rasmus with a 2-run homer. It is 14-3 St. Louis. That is 13 hits in 4 1/3 innings off Mike Pelfrey, as Rasmus goes long.
Want this ball in. It's a slider that's supposed to be down and in. It kind of just sat right in the middle of the plate. And, Rasmus is one of those players that is going to be in the big leagues. And if not this year, then by next year, he's going to be a star. And mistakes to him are going to be costly.
Rasmus hit 29 home runs in Double-A at Springfield last year. And that's going to be all for Mike Pelfrey. 4 1/3 innings. Pelfrey gave up 8 runs and 13 hits. A day when opportunity presented itself for Mike Pelfrey, and he clearly did not take advantage. Sidearmer Brandon Knoll will try and pick up the pieces here in the ninth.
That's what Binghamton. He started out here in Port St. Lucie last season, non-drafted free agent.
And he's greeted by a hard hit base hit to center field. Let's see, that was Johnson, but it wasn't Mark Johnson. Cardinals brought over all sorts of players today who were not on their travel roster. They've made the task a little more difficult. This is Mark Johnson.
You're not taking it personally, are you? Do you think they did it on purpose?
That's okay. So it's the Johnson and Johnson attack for, that was Gabe Johnson who just got the base hit.
And the Mets could use a Band-Aid to stop this inning.
Very nice. And the hits just keep on coming. 20 hits now for the Cardinals today. That's 20. Yep. Pulled through the hole. That's 21. So Johnson and Johnson do not allow the Mets to bandage the wound. Mets have not had too many days like this spring, but this was an important day for the Mets pitching staff, especially for that guy, Mike Pelfrey, and his competition for the number 5 starting job, Orlando Hernandez. Good slider by Nall to start Molina, who started the inning with a base hit. When they told Molina he was going to play the whole game today, I'm sure he wasn't expecting to get 6 at-bats. 2 of them in the 9th inning. Now it's 0-2. By the way,
yes,
there's still only 1 out.
Well, I was just thinking, the truck said I have to do something for 45 seconds on the 2 pitchers today, Pelfrey and Hernandez. I'm going to request, I need more time.
Well, the Cardinals have certainly taken more time. And the slider misses 1-2. Brandon Nall went to LSU after pitching in junior college, spent 3 years at LSU and threw 32 innings. Ooh. He said, my whole LSU career was an injury. And he hits Molina in the foot. And that's the last thing the Cardinals needed in the 9th inning of a 14-3 game, is to have their number 1 catcher get drilled.
They'll probably pinch run for him because Mark Johnson's a catcher that's on second base. His sinker is supposed to be down and in.
And Molina says he's okay.
That's pretty good to see that.
So this inning just keeps on rolling. And now Jose Martinez, who lined out to left field with that big cut. You think he's got salami on the menu?
He doesn't get cheated, as they say.
No. And a breaking ball misses, 1-0. Looking for some way out of this inning, the Mets get another relief pitcher, Germán Marte. Up in the bullpen.
Thought it might have been Al Jackson. After watching him throw BP yesterday, Al still looks like he can still pitch.
Al's what, 72 years old?
He's unbelievable.
He is. He's in great shape.
One of the great guys in this organization.
And a great pitcher. Back in the early days of the Mets.
He used to have Gibby's number, didn't he? He used to have the battles with Bob Gibson all the time.
Well, it was that final Friday of the season in 1964 that Al Jackson beat Bob Gibson and the Cardinals 1-0 to put the Cardinals' pennant hopes on hold. Of course, they would wind up winning it and cementing the Phillies' spot in baseball lore, which the Mets challenged mightily last September. Brandon Nall would love to get a double play grounder here. Mets are shortened up at second and short, shorter than normal double play depth. Back to the mound. Nall will get the out at home, and that's all. So that's the second out. Eight consecutive Cardinals had reached base before that second out. And now we're going to get a pinch runner for Molina. They finally found somebody to run for him. And it's a 94 with no name, and we don't know who that is. Do you know who that is?
At this point, you don't care? It's not that I don't care. It's just I don't need to know who it is.
Okay. So 94, old number 94, running at first is Rico Washington, who's 2 for 3, pulls one foul.
And you know the awful part is he's going to be like from Long Island. His family is going to love the Mets. They're watching on TV.
And we apologize to all of them. We don't know who you are, but whoever you are, congratulations. 1-1 to Rico Washington. So I've got 94 PR. That's what it says on my scorecard, and I can't do any better than that right now. 14-3 St. Louis. 6 runs home here in the ninth. And Washington flies it to center, and Chavez with the glasses down finally puts an end to the inning after 12 men came to bat for the Cardinals. 6 runs scored, including a 2-run homer for Colby Rasmus off that man, Mike Telford. Whatever. Did we ever figure out who number 94 was? Huh? Luke? Gustavo Molina leads off the last of the ninth and lines a base hit off Ryan Franklin. And the Mets are in business, down 14-3.
Have to start somewhere, Barry.
New York Mets baseball is brought to you by your local tri-state BMW dealers. By Verizon Fios, the most amazing TV picture and the fastest internet, period. By Outback, celebrate Outback's 20th blooming birthday. Hurry in before the party's over. And by Volvo, who believes that life is better lived together. Volvo for life. Fernando Tatis up for the 3rd time. We have found out, by the way, who the mystery number 94 was as you look at the numbers on Ryan Franklin. Luke Gregerson.
Nice.
He's a pitcher. Oh. You were used as a pinch runner at times.
My first couple of years, I was used all the time.
There's Gabe Johnson playing first base. Mark Johnson doing the catching. They both had a hand in that 6-run inning. Tatis pulls one over the bag and down the line for his 2nd extra base hit of the game. You talk about making a late run for a spot on the ball club. Molina stops at 3rd. Fernando Tatis, over the last few days, has just hit everything.
A little fastball in and kind of hooked down the line from Tatis, who has a long swing but quick swing.
So Anderson Hernandez will come up for the first time. That's have greeted Ryan Franklin with a single and a double. And the Mets now have 9 hits in the game. By the way, you'll be happy to know, Ron, Luke Gregerson, mystery number 94, not from the New York area.
Very nice.
He's a Chicago kid. But, you know, with the satellite and MLB.com, his parents could have been watching.
Sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Gregerson.
We did figure it out eventually. But, you know, the thing is, they knew all along.
Yeah. No, you're talking about the pinch running. The first couple of years I was in the majors, of course, we had the unbelievable Rusty Staub as the pinch hitter. I used to always have to run for Rusty. One year, I think he had 22 hits as a pinch hitter, so lots of running. And every single time I went out to run for him, he said the same thing every time.
Martinez throws out Hernandez as a run comes home to make it 14-4.
His words of advice always, hey kid, don't embarrass me. Every single time.
Not even don't get picked off?
No, hey kid, don't embarrass me.
Luis Castillo's played the entire game, going 0 for 3. And there's a strike from Franklin. 14-4 St. Louis. We're in the ninth, and the story of this day the failure of either one of the fifth starter candidates to impress. El Duque not looking as though he's quite ready for prime time over his 3 innings. And Mike Pelfrey getting shelled over his 4 1/3, giving up 8 runs and 13 hits. And so I guess the question is, and I'm sure that Willie and Rick are already pondering this, is with 8 days to go till the season and some decisions close to needing to be made, what happens next? 3-1 to Castillo.
Well, after El Duque came out after 3 innings and 5 runs, who would have thunk it that Pelfrey might have had the tougher day?
There's a strike to Castillo. And the thing about Pelfrey today, and we saw the little of this last year, that when things go bad, it's hard for him sometimes to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Castillo chops one down to first, and Gabe Johnson makes the play for the 2nd out. Tatis moves over to 3rd, and the Mets are down to their last out.
Managing an inning as a pitcher is vital, and I think that a lot of times for a lot of these young pitchers, the lack of innings in the minor leagues comes back to haunt them, because when you're in the minor leagues, there's a lot of things that have to happen there. If you're on a bad streak, you have to stop it. If you're having a tough time in an inning, you got to get out of it. If you're having a winning streak, how to keep it going. And all of those kind of things you learn over the course of time. Learning it here can be cruel.
Ruben Gotay came in for David Wright at 3rd base. This is his first at bat. 2 out of the 9th. And there's a strike from Franklin, 1-1.
And this comes from someone, let me tell you, I thought, I don't need the minor leagues. I'm ready.
Well, you didn't spend much time in the minor league.
But I still pitched close to 400 innings.
Which these days is a lot.
A lot.
In your time, it was not a lot.
Yeah.
And you were considered to have been rushed, no?
Yeah. No, I don't think I was rushed. I think they thought Gooden was going to be rushed, but I don't think I was rushed because I spent that 2nd season at AAA, so.
One and 2 to Gotay. On the outside corner. Strike 3 called, and the ball game is over. Well, the Cardinals put together 21 hits against El Duque and Pelfrey and company, and wallop the Mets 14-4 on Easter Sunday.
Well, when you had a lot of question marks going into this game, you'd have to think that those are still lingering.
Be sure to join us for our next Mets telecast on the CW11 Sunday, April 13th at 1 o'clock when the Mets play the Milwaukee Brewers. Coming up next on the CW11, it's My Wife and Kids. Tony La Russa and the Cardinals come to Port St. Lucie and stomp on the Mets 14-4. Rough day for Orlando Hernandez in his first start of the spring. 3 innings, 5 runs, 4 hits. Mike Pelfrey did not fare any better. 4 1/3 innings, 8 runs, 13 hits. And so the Mets have to figure out where they're going with that last spot in their starting rotation. Now for Ron Darling and Kevin Burkhardt, I'm Gary Cohen saying so long from Port St. Lucie.